This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutterdime and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this date. And on this day, February 2nd, Groundhog Day, we don't know if the groundhog will see his shadow or not. Frankly, I don't care what the result is. We're doomed for winter no matter what. Anyway, so on this Groundhog Day, 9 years ago, I can't remember if the groundhog saw his shadow, but it still doesn't matter. Like, fuck. Anywho, Super Bowl 48 has the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks in it. And it became a very big one. It was the third highest point differential in Super Bowl history. It was a 35-point win for the Seahawks. The Seahawks were crushed it 43-8, finally getting a Super Bowl. Not just for the city of Seattle, but for my good buddy Jason Lundgren, who's a fellow Aspie, who's a video arcade enthusiast and does stuff and opinion videos. But anyway, this was huge. All that. The Broncos lost their 5th Super Bowl. That would be the most Super Bowls lost by a team in history. But Super Bowl 42 saw the Pats lose, which was 52, in 2018. The Pats lost 5 Super Bowls. Let's not forget that the Pats, although they lost 2 Super Bowls to the Giants and 1 to the Eagles in the Tom Brady era, they did lose in Super Bowl 20 and 31 without Brady. So anyway, the Seahawks were 13-3. The Broncos were 13-3. And the Seahawks and Broncos were actually divisional rivals from 1977 to 2001 until the realignment with Houston becoming Team 32 and they moved Seattle to the NFC. Seattle was up 36-0. It was actually the largest shutout lead in Super Bowl history. Not even the Niners, when they crushed Denver 55-10 in 1990, did that. That was amazing. And all that. So anyway, it was huge. Over 111 million people watched the game on Fox. 115 in the U.S. 115 million did the halftime show. Well, it's Bruno Mars. It was the most watched U.S. TV broadcast of all time, but then Super Bowl 49 broke that mark. Anyway, Seattle, when they won by 35, tied the Cowboys when they won Super Bowl 27 against the Bills, 52-17 for the 35-point lead. The only 2 blowouts bigger than that, San Fran went over Denver in 1990 by 45, and the Bears over the Pats in Super Bowl 20 in 1986 by 36. So this was huge. It was amazing that New York got the Super Bowl. Not because, New York's not really a good football city, which it is. The problem was that, it was a cold climate. And usually in a cold climate like Minnesota or Detroit, they had the game indoors, no big deal. But because the Jets and Giants don't play indoors, it was weird and all that. It lacked a roof. And the NFL never played an outdoor Super Bowl game in a cold weather climate. So there were some people who basically said this was not going to work out because of probably a giant freezing storm and all that. The average temperature were about 4 Celsius or 39 Fahrenheit. However, the temperature kickoff was actually milder at 9 Celsius, 49 Fahrenheit, making it the 3rd coldest Super Bowl. But the funny thing was, the coldest Super Bowl was in New Orleans at Super Bowl 6. The kickoff temperature was 4 Celsius, 39 Fahrenheit. Tulane Stadium also had the 2nd coldest Super Bowl. Super Bowl 9 started at 8 degrees Celsius, 46 Fahrenheit. So, yeah. And it didn't snow. So, yeah. People were shocked that New Orleans had cold weather and all that. It's Louisiana. But, yeah, it worked out. So, yeah, MetLife Stadium would do it. They hosted the Giants and Jets simultaneously and could have 2 host teams. And all that. And it was the first Super Bowl outdoors on field turf or artificial turf since Super Bowl 10 in 76. And this was the first time it was outdoors in 4 years. People looked like a contingency plan of a heavy snow. But, you know, the weird thing was, no snow. Actually, there was a winter storm 6 hours after Super Bowl 48, so it worked out. Actually worked out. The snow held off. Anyway, Seattle was 13-3. They had home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs and looked good. Russell Wilson, as a second-year quarterback, was just amazing for what he did. Over 3,300 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Golden Tate, Doug Baldwin, Zach Miller were good receivers. And, of course, Marshawn Lynch, the linchpin, pardon the pun, at running back. Seattle had a great defense. They were the first team since the 85 Bears, who won Super Bowl 20, to have the fewest yards allowed per game, fewest points allowed, and most takeaways. They looked pretty good, though. They had Clint Averill and Michael Bennett at the defensive end positions, Bobby Wagner, great linebacker, and the Legion of Boom backfield. Defensive backfield, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, and Cam Chancellor. Denver put up 13 wins for the second straight year and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They looked pretty good. They were explosion. And Peyton Manning, in his second year as team starter, his first year ended disastrously as Baltimore went into Denver, beat them in the divisional round in double overtime. But Peyton looked fantastic. 5,400 plus passing yards and 55 touchdowns. Both set NFL records. And his 450 completions were second most in history. So who wouldn't pick Denver if you're an offensive-minded fan? Demetrius Thomas, Eric Decker, Wes Welker was there doing quite well. Noshan Moreno could run the ball with Monty Ball. And they had a decent defense. So anyway, the Seahawks and Broncos were the number one seeds and didn't have to play in the wildcard round. The Seahawks would play the Saints at home in the divisional round. And the Seahawks nearly botched it. But they won 23-15. They hosted the San Fran 49ers 23-17. Was the final against San Fran. Of course, San Fran were talking shit about Richard Sherman, and then Sherman was the one who batted the ball into the arms of his fellow Seahawk player Malcolm Smith, and then Sherman yelled at Michael Crabtree, "Don't you ever say that about me again, because I just beat you." Meanwhile, Denver faced the Chargers in the divisional round and narrowly lost, but they won 24-17. Then they took on my New England Patriots. I was hoping for Brady to take down Peyton, but thanks to a 400-yard passing performance by Peyton, they went to the Super Bowl. Fuck. So anyway, it was Super Bowl week and all that. You know, it was all there and all for love and all that. So anyway, the halftime show was Bruno Mars with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They weren't sure about doing a halftime show because of the weather and all that. But thankfully, though, they didn't have any issues with that. So anyway, Denver got the ball first. And Peyton Manning was ready to call an audible. But unfortunately, center Manny Ramirez, not that Manny Ramirez, snapped the ball. Peyton was not paying attention, and the ball went into the end zone. Denver had to recover it because if Seattle did, that was 7 points. It was 2-0, the quickest score in Super Bowl history. 12 seconds into the game. It was the quickest score ever. They had to do a free kick. And then Seattle put up a pair of field goals by Steve Hotchka, make it 8-0. And then beast mode happened in the second quarter, making it 15-0. And then Malcolm Smith had a pick six with 3 minutes left in the second quarter. I remember watching that Super Bowl at Target. Now, Target, I worked the night of the Super Bowl at Target when Target was still around in Canada. So I worked, and we had a TV and all that. and I turned the TV on instinctively to the Super Bowl. I think I was the only one in the lunchroom, but I got to watch the end of the second quarter before I had to go back to work. But anyway, I saw Malcolm Smith's pick six, and I'm like, yes, go, 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 yeah. I picked the Seahawks because I'm like, well, they got a good defense, and yes, the bitterness of me, and yes, the bitterness of my team losing to Peyton Manning in the playoffs helped too. A little bit of bias, but it doesn't matter. But then in the third quarter, once halftime happened, it was 22-0. Percy Harvin did what? Ah, crap! I forgot the guy who did it the previous year, 2013, did. Look at the notes. Jacoby Jones, that's right, Jacoby Jones. Just like Jacoby Jones the previous year, Percy Harvin returned the second half kick off for a touchdown, so 29-0. Russell Wilson got a touchdown to Jermaine Kearse to make it 36-0. And it was like, holy crow, can Seattle shut out Denver? Well, the bad news for a lot of people was that, yeah, that didn't happen. Denver scored a touchdown and 2-point convert at the end of the third quarter. But still, Seattle got a touchdown pass from Wilson to Doug Baldwin, which was shocking. Well, there was 11 minutes left. There was still time to pass the ball. So, yeah, he did it. Demetrius Thomas, even though he played for the opposition, got 13 receptions, the most in Super Bowl history. And Peyton completed 34 passes, which was number one. But Denver became the first team to lose 5 Super Bowls. And Seattle had the largest halftime lead with a shutout, 22-0. Had the largest lead with a shutout at 36-0. So, yeah, it was just like, wow, and all that. It was just shocking. And people were like, Seattle's probably just a one-season wonder. Nope, they went to the Super Bowl the next year, and unfortunately, that Super Bowl will only be remembered for Marshawn Lynch's stupidity. Well, it's not the stupidity of Pete Carroll, I mean. Because, I mean, after all, you got Marshawn Lynch. You're at the 1 yard line. You probably have a timeout. You could have won, and I would have conceded. Like a good boy. But yeah, Seattle crushed Denver in defined powder. Yes, 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 indeed. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond.